Welcome to Investor Targeting and Outreach, the fifth course in the Bulletproof Pitch curriculum. There are 7 modules in this course. Let's start with the outreach fallacy. You've done the work. The narrative is clear. The deck is bulletproof. The financials tell the right story. Now it is time to get in front of investors. And this is where a surprising number of founders who did everything else right, lose around before it starts. Here's the first version of the story. A founder identifies 5 investors who seem like a good fit. They send a well-crafted email with a deck. 2 open it. 1 responds with a polite pass. 1 goes quiet. The founder waits 2 weeks, sends 1 follow-up, and hears nothing. After a month, they conclude that the deck is not resonating and go back to refining the pitch. The pitch was not the problem. The process was. Here is a second version. A different founder sends a deck to 50 investors over 2 weeks. Generic subject line. No personalization. No mention of why this investor specifically. They get 4 responses, 2 meetings, no term sheet. They also conclude the pitch is not working. Again, the pitch was probably not the problem. Both founders made the same error. They treated investor outreach as a broadcast, something you send and wait on, rather than a process you run. The first mistake is believing that 5 or 10 investor conversations is a meaningful sample. It is not. Fundraising is a numbers game, and the numbers are larger than most first-time founders expect. Successful raises typically involve over 100 screened and qualified investor contacts, not because the pitch needs 100 shots to land, but because the investor who's the right fit at the right moment with the capital available and a thesis that aligns is a specific person. Finding them requires volume. The second mistake is sending a generic email to many and treating the initial outreach as the whole effort. An investor who sees the specific portfolio thesis reflected in your outreach pays attention differently than one who receives a generic cold email. A 60-second Loom video that references a specific company they backed and explains why your deal is adjacent stands out in an inbox full of identical decks. Personalization is not politeness, it is conversion rate. Also, most investors who eventually say yes did not respond to the first message. They responded to the 3rd or 4th touch point or to the moment the founder demonstrated enough persistence and organization to follow up well. Investor outreach is not send and done. It is a sequence. There's something else at work here that most founders do not see. How you run the fundraising process is itself a signal. An investor watching a founder who's organized, persistent, systematic, and disciplined in their outreach is watching the same qualities they're betting on when they write the check. The process is the pitch. Investor outreach done right is a sales pipeline with 4 stages. The first stage is targeting. Before any message is sent, you define your investor archetypes, the specific combination of stage focus, thesis alignment, check size, and portfolio profile that describes an investor who should want to do this deal. Then you build a list of over 100 contacts qualified against those archetypes. The list is built from research, portfolio analysis, public writing, fund announcements, and network mapping. The second stage is the pilot. Before the full campaign launches, you run a targeted pilot with 5 to 10 warm introductions. These are investors you have access to through existing relationships. The pilot is not about closing. It is about collecting feedback. What objections come up? Where does the pitch lose them? That feedback gets incorporated before the main launch. The third stage is the campaign. The full outreach launches with personalized messages, Loom videos where possible, and a disciplined follow-up sequence. Every contact is tracked. Response rates, meeting conversion, and objection patterns are measured. The funnel is treated as a data source. You are learning what works and adjusting in real time. The fourth stage is the close. The fundraising window is 3 to 6 months. The clock starts when you send the first message. Early commitments have a shelf life. A raise that extends past 6 months signals to every investor still in the conversation that the round is struggling. Momentum is created by early commitments and maintained by a closing sequence that brings conversations to a decision before the window closes. The founders who raise well understand one thing the others do not. Fundraising is not a test of whether the business is fundable. It is a test of whether the founder can run a disciplined process under pressure. The ones who treat it like a process win. The ones who treat it like a lottery lose, regardless of how strong the pitch is. Back to the sustainable packaging company. Two approaches to the same race. The first approach, the founder identifies 15 investors from a general VC database, sends a generic email with a deck, follows up once, gets 3 meetings, all with generalist funds that never backed a materials company. No term sheet. The founder concludes the round is not working. The second approach, the founder defines 2 investor archetypes before sending a single message. The first archetype is climate tech and circular economy funds that have backed physical product companies and understand hardware unit economics. The second is materials-focused corporate venture arms at consumer goods companies with sustainability mandates. The founder builds a list of 130 qualified contacts across both archetypes, runs a pilot with 8 warm introductions, gets feedback. The market slide needs to show the regulatory tailwind from single-use plastic bans moving through the EU and 3 US states. The founder tightens the narrative, launches the full campaign with personalized emails referencing specific portfolio companies. The founder follows up every 10 days with a new data point. After 10 weeks, has 6 term sheet conversations running simultaneously. Same business, same deck. One treated the race as a broadcast, the other treated it as a sales campaign with defined archetypes, a qualified list, and a disciplined process. The pitch is the product, the outreach process is the distribution. In the modules ahead, we are going to build a full outreach system. You will learn how to define the investor archetypes, build and qualify a list of over 100 contacts, design the personalized sequences that convert, run a pilot that sharpens the pitch before full campaign launch, manage the pipeline with data, and close the round within the window. The goal of this course is not more investor meetings. It is a closed round. Let's build it.